Now read this.
Hello and welcome back to Now Read This, the Chronicles of Prydain, Book 5, The High King, by Lloyd Alexander, Chapter 2, The Letter Sticks. Taryn could not stifle a gasp of fear. The black-robed woman glanced at him coldly. "Aron dares not pass the borders of Anuvan in his true form," Akron said. "To do so would mean his death, but he commands all shapes, and they are both shield and mask. To the harper and Lord Gwydion he showed himself as a pig-keeper. He could as well have appeared as a fox in the forest, an eagle, even a blind worm, if he deemed that would best serve his ends. Yes, pig-keeper, with no less ease could he have chosen the form and features of any creature living. For Lord Gwydion, what better lure than the sight of a companion in danger, one who had fought often at his side, known to him and trusted? Gwydion is too shrewd a warrior to be taken in a weaker snare." "Then all of us are lost," Taryn said, dismayed. "The Lord of Anuvan can move among us as he pleases, and we are without defence against him." "You have reason to fear, pig-keeper," replied Akron. "Now you glimpse one of Aron's subtlest powers. But it is a power used only when none other will serve him. Never will he leave his stronghold, save in the press of mortal danger, or, as today, when what he sought to gain far outweighed the risk." Akron's voice lowered. "Aron has many secrets, but this one is most deeply guarded. Once he assumes a shape, his strength and skill are no greater than that of the guise he wears. Then can he be slain like any mortal thing." "Oh, Fluder, if I'd only been with you," Eilonwy cried in despair. "Aron wouldn't have deceived me, no matter how much he looked like Taryn. Don't tell me I couldn't have told the difference between a real assistant pig-keeper and a false one." "Foolish pride, daughter of Engerad," Akron answered scornfully. "No eyes can see behind the mask of Aron Deathlord. No eyes," she added, "but mine. Do you doubt me?" Akron went on quickly, seeing Eilonwy's surprise. The woman's ravaged features held shreds of an old pride, and her voice sharpened with haughtiness and anger. "Long before the sons of Dawn came to dwell in Prydain, long before the lords of the Cantrev swore allegiance to Math, High King, and Gwydion, his war leader, it was I who commanded obedience to my rule, I who wore the iron crown of Anuvan. Aron was my consort who served me and did my bidding," Akron said, "and he betrayed me." Her voice was low and harsh, and rage glittered in her eyes. "He robbed me of my throne and cast me aside. Yet his powers are no secret to me, for it was I who taught them to him. Let him cloud your sight with whatever guise he chooses. From me never can the face of Aron be hidden." Gwydion stirred and groaned faintly. Taryn turned again to the basin of healing herbs, while Eilonwy raised the warrior's head. "Bear Prince Gwydion to my chamber," Dalbin ordered. The enchanter's careworn face was drawn, and the lines had deepened in his withered cheeks. "Your skill has helped keep him from death," he said to Taryn. "Now I must see if mine may help him to life." Cole lifted Gwydion in his burly arms. Akron made to follow after him. "I have little need of sleep, and can best keep a vigil," Akron said. "I shall watch the night over Lord Gwydion." "I shall watch over him," Eilonwy said, stepping to the side of Cole. "Fear me not, daughter of Engerad," Akron said. "I bear no ill will against Lord Gwydion." She bowed deeply, half humble and half mocking. "The stable is my castle, and the scullery my realm. I seek no other." "Come," Dalbin said. "Both of you shall help me. Wait, the others. Be patient and hopeful." Darkness had blinded the windows of the cottage. To Taryn, it seemed the fire had lost its warmth and cast only cold shadows among the silent companions. "At first I thought somehow we could overtake the huntsmen and keep them from reaching Anuvan," Taryn said at last. "But if Akron speaks truth, Aron himself commanded them. Then Gwydion's sword is already in his hands. I do not know his purpose, but I am deeply afraid." "I can't forgive myself," Fluda said. "The loss is my fault. I should have seen the trap instantly." Taryn shook his head. "Aron worked a bitter ruse on you. Gwydion himself was deceived. "But not I," cried the bard. "A flam is keen-eyed. From the first moment I saw differences. The way he sat his steed, the way—" The harp, slung at the bard's shoulder, tensed suddenly, and a string snapped with such a twang that Gurgi, crouched near the hearth, started bolt upright. Fluda choked and swallowed. "There it goes again," he muttered. "Will it never leave off the slightest? Colouring of the flax and beastly strings break. Believe me, I meant no exaggeration. As I thought back, it did seem that I could notice. No, the truth of it is this. The guise was perfect. I could be snared again, and as easily." "Amazing," murmured the King of Mona, who had been watching with wide eyes. "I say, I wish I could do that sort of shape-changing myself. Unbelievable. I've always thought, though, how interesting to be a badger or an ant. I should love to know how to build as well as they do. Since I've been king, I've tried to improve things here and there. I meant to put up a new seawall at Mona Haven. I've begun one already. My idea was to start from both ends at the same time and thus be done twice as quickly. I can't understand what went wrong, for I took charge of all the work myself, but somehow we didn't meet in the middle, and I'll have to find a better way of going at it. Then I've planned a road to Glue's old cavern. It's an amazing place, and I think the folk of Dinas Rident will enjoy visiting it. Surprising how easy it is," Rune said, beaming proudly. "The planning, at any rate. The doing, for some reason, always seems a little harder." Glue, hearing his name spoken, pricked up his ears. He had not left his place in the chimney corner, nor had his alarm at the happenings in the cottage made him loosen his hold on the cook-pot. "When I was a giant," he began. "I see the little weasel is with you," said Fluda to King Rune, recognizing Glue immediately, despite the former giant's present stature. "When he was a giant," the bard muttered, giving Glue a look of ill-concealed vexation, "he was a paltry one. He'd have done anything to be free of that cavern, even to popping us into that foul stew he'd cooked up. A flam is forgiving, but I think he went a little too far." "When I was a giant," Glue continued, either ignoring or not hearing the bard's remarks, "no one would have humiliated me by taking me by the ears and hustling me aboard a smelly boat. I had no wish to come here. After what's happened today, I have less wish to stay." Glue pursed his lips. "Dalbin shall see that I am taken back to Mona without delay." "I'm sure he will," Terran replied, "but Dalbin has graver concerns now, and so do we all." Mumbling something about shabby treatment and lack of consideration, Glue scraped a finger along the bottom of the pot and sucked his teeth with indignant satisfaction. The companion said no more, but settled down to wait out the night. The fire burned to ashes. A night wind rose outside the cottage. Terran rested his head on his arms. At this homecoming he had longed to stand before Eilonwy, forgetting rank and birth, as any man before any woman, and ask her to wed. But now the disaster that had overtaken Gwydion made Terran's own wishes unimportant. Though he still did not know Eilonwy's heart, nor what her answer to him may be, he could not bring himself to learn it until all hearts were at peace again. He closed his eyes. The wind screamed, as if it would rip to tatters the quiet meadows and orchards of Caer Dalbin. A hand on his shoulder aroused him. It was Eilonwy. "Gwydion has awakened," she said. "He would speak with us." In Dalbin's chamber, the Prince of Dawn half raised himself from the couch. His features were pale under their weathering, and tightly drawn, though more in anger than pain. His mouth was set bitter, his green eyes burned with dark flashes, and his glance was that of a proud wolf, scornful of his hurt, and scornful all the more of those who had given him his wounds. Akron was a silent shadow in the corner. The old enchanter stood anxiously beside the book-strewn table near the wooden bench where Terran, throughout boyhood, had sat for lessons. The Book of Three, the huge leather-bound tome of secret lore forbidden to all but Dalbin himself, lay closed atop a pile of other ancient volumes. Terran, with Eilonwy, Fluda, and King Rune behind him, strode to Gwydion and clasped the warrior's hand. The Prince of Dawn smiled grimly. "No merry meeting, and no long one, Assistant Pigkeeper," Gwydion said. "Dalbin has told me of the Death Lord's ruse. Dernwyn must be regained at all costs, and without delay. He spoke, too, of your wanderings," Gwydion added. I would hear more of them from yourself, but that must wait another time. I ride to Anuvan before the day is out." Taran looked at the Prince of Dawn in surprise and concern. "Your wounds are still fresh. You cannot make such a journey." "Neither can I stay here," Gwydion answered. "Since Dernwyn first came into my hands, I have learned more of its nature. Only a little more," he added, "but enough to know its loss is fatal." "Dernwyn's lineage is as ancient as Prydain itself," Gwydion continued, "and much of its history has been forgotten or destroyed. For long, the blade was thought no more than legend, and matter for a harper's song. Taliesin, chief bard, is wisest in the lore of Prydain, but even he could tell me only that Govanion the Lame, a master craftsman, forged and tempered Dernwyn at the behest of King Rhydark Hale as a weapon of greatest power and protection for the land. To safeguard it, a spell was cast upon the blade and warning graven on the scabbard.
"I remember the old writing," Eilonwy said. "Indeed, I shall never forget it, for I had an impossible time keeping Taran from meddling with things he didn't understand. Draw, Dernwyn, only thou of royal blood."
"Closer to its true meaning is noble worth," said Gwydion. "The enchantment forbade the sword to all but those who would use it wisely and well. The flame of Dernwyn would destroy any other who sought to draw it. But the writing on the scabbard has been marred. The full message, which might have told more of the sword's purpose, is unknown. King Rhydark bore the blade throughout his life," Gwydion continued, "and his sons after him. Their reigns were peaceful and prosperous, but here Dernwyn's history ends. King Rita, grandson of Rhydark, was the last to hold the blade. He was lord of Spiral Castle before it became the stronghold of Queen Akron. He met his death, in a way unknown, with Dernwyn clutched in his hands. From that time on, the sword was seen no more, forgotten as it lay buried with him in Spiral Castle's deepest chamber." Gwydion turned to Eilonwy. "Where you, princess, found it. You gave it to me willingly, but it was not willingly that it left my hands. The blade is worth more than my life, or the lives of any of us. In Aron's grasp, it can bring doom upon Prydain." "Do you believe Aron can unsheathe the sword?" Taran asked hurriedly. "Can he turn the weapon against us? Can he make it serve some evil end?" "This I do not know," replied Gwydion. The warrior's face was troubled. "It may be that Aron Deathlord has found means to break the enchantment, or, unable to use it himself, his purpose may be to keep the blade from any other use. He would have taken my life as well as the sword. Thanks to Fluda Flam, I still have the one. Now I must find the other, though the path led me to the depths of Anuvan itself." Akron, silent until now, raised her head and spoke to Gwydion. "Let me seek Dernwyn in your stead. I know the ways of Anuvan. No stranger am I to its secret hoards, and where and how they are guarded. If the sword is hidden, I will find it. If Aron himself bears it, Dernwyn will be taken from him. More than that, I swear by every oath to destroy him. Thus have I sworn already to myself, and swear it again to you. You forced life upon me, Gwydion, when I begged for death. Now give me what I live for. Give me my vengeance." Gwydion did not answer immediately. His green-flecked eyes searched the woman's face. He said, "Vengeance is not a gift I may bestow, Akron." Akron stiffened. Her hands twisted into claws, and Taran feared she would fling herself upon Gwydion. She did not move. "You will not trust me," Akron said hoarsely. Her bloodless lips turned in a smile of contempt. "So be it, Prince of Dawn. Once you scorned to share a kingdom with me. Scorn me again to your own loss." "I do not scorn you," Gwydion said. "I only urge you to accept Dalban's protection. Stay here in safety. Among all of us, your hope of finding the sword is the least. Aron's hatred of you can be no less than yours of him. He or his servants would slay you at sight, even before you set foot in Anuvan. No, Akron, what you offer is not possible." He thought a moment. "There may be another way to learn how Dernwyn shall be found." Gwydion turned to Dalban, but the enchanter sorrowfully shook his head. "Alas," Dalban said, "the Book of Three cannot tell us what we most need to know.
I have searched carefully every page to understand its hidden meanings. They are dark, even to me. Fetch the letter sticks, the enchanter said to Cole. Hen Wen alone can help us. From her enclosure, the white pig watched the silent procession. On his bony shoulders, Dalbin bore the letter sticks, the ashwood rods carved with ancient symbols. Glue, interested only in the provisions of the scullery, remained behind, as did Gurgi, who well remembered the former giant and chose to keep an eye on him. Akron had spoken no further, but hooded her face and sat motionless in the cottage. Usually, at the sight of Taran, the oracular pig would squeal joyously and trot to the railing to have her chin scratched. Now she cowered in a far corner of the pen, her little eyes wide and her cheeks trembling. As Dalbin entered the enclosure and planted the letter sticks upright in the earth, Hen Wen snaffled and crouched closer against the bars. Dalbin, murmuring inaudibly, moved to stand beside the ashwood rods. Outside the enclosure, the companions waited. Hen Wen whimpered and did not stir. "What does she fear?" Eilonwy whispered. Taran made no answer. His eyes were fixed on the aged enchanter in his wind-whipped robe, on the letter sticks, and the unmoving form of Hen Wen. Against the dull sky, they seemed to him frozen together in their own moment, far beyond the silent watchers. This was the first time Taran had seen the enchanter seek a prophecy from the oracular pig. Of Dalbin's power he could only guess, but he knew Hen Wen, and knew she was too terrified to move. He waited what felt an age. Even Rune sensed something amiss. The King of Mona's cheerful face was darkly clouded. Dalbin glanced uneasily at Gwydion. Never before has Hen Wen refused to answer when the letter sticks were shown her. Again he murmured words Taran could not distinguish. The oracular pig shuddered violently, shut her eyes, and sank her head between her stubby trotters. "Perhaps a few notes on my harp?" Fleur suggested. "I've had excellent success." The enchanter motioned the bard to be silent. Once more he spoke, softly yet commandingly. Hen Wen shrank into herself and moaned as though in pain. "Her fear blinds her powers," Dalbin said gravely. "Even my spells do not reach her. I have failed." Despair filled the faces of the watching companions. Gwydion bowed his head, and his eyes were deeply troubled. "We too shall fail," he said, "if we do not learn whatever she can tell us." Quickly, and without a word, Taran climbed the railing, walked steadily toward the frightened pig, and dropped to his knees beside her. He scratched her chin and gently stroked her neck. "Don't be afraid, Hen. Nothing will harm you here." Dalbin, surprised, started forward, then halted. Hearing Taran's voice, the pig had cautiously opened one eye. Her snout twitched, and she raised her head slightly, and gave a faint "Whack." "Hen, listen to me," Taran pleaded. "I have no power to command you, but we need your help, all of us who love you." Taran spoke on. As he did, the oracular pig ceased her trembling. Though she did not attempt to rise, Hen Wen grunted fondly, wheezed, and made affectionate muttering sounds in her throat. She blinked her eyes, and her wide face seemed nearly to grin. "Tell us, Hen," Taran urged. "Please, tell us what you can." Hen Wen moved uneasily. Slowly she climbed to her feet. The white pig snorted and glanced at the letter sticks. Step by step, on her short legs, she moved closer to them. The enchanter nodded to Taran. "Well done," he murmured. "This day the power of an assistant pig-keeper is greater than my own." As Taran stared, not daring to speak, Hen Wen paused at the first rod. Still hesitant, she pointed with her snout at one of the carved symbols, then at another. Dalbin, watching intently, quickly wrote on a scrap of parchment the signs the oracular pig had indicated. Hen Wen continued a few moments, then suddenly left off and backed anxiously from the stick. Dalbin's face was grave. "Can this be so?" he murmured, his voice filled with alarm. "No, no! We must learn more than that." He glanced at Taran. "Please, Hen," Taran whispered, coming to the side of the pig, who had begun to shudder again. "Help us." Despite his words, Taran feared Hen Wen would turn away.
She shook her head, squinted her eyes, and grunted piteously. Nevertheless, at his pleading, she cautiously trotted to the second rod. There, in desperate haste, as if to make an end of it quickly, she pointed to other symbols. The enchanter's hand trembled as he wrote. "Now the third one," he said urgently. Hen Wen, stiff-legged, reared back and sank to her haunches. All of Terran's soothing words would not budge her for several moments. At last, however, she rose, and more fearfully than ever, trotted to the final ashwood rod. Even as Hen Wen approached, and before she could point to the first letter, the ashwood rods shook and swayed like living things. They twisted as though to uproot themselves, and with a sound that ripped the air like a thunderclap, they split, shattered, and fell to the earth in splinters. Hen Wen, squealing in terror, flung herself backward and fled to a corner of the enclosure. As Terran hurried to her, Dalbin bent, picked up the fragments of wood, and studied them hopelessly. "They are destroyed beyond repair, and useless now," Dalbin said in a heavy voice. "The cause is dark to me, and Hen Wen's prophecy remains unfinished. Even so, I doubt its end could bode less ill than its beginning. She must have sensed this herself." The enchanter turned and walked slowly from the enclosure. Eilonwy had joined Terran, who strove to calm the terrified pig. Hen Wen still gasped and shook and pressed her head between her forelegs. "No wonder she didn't want to prophesy," Eilonwy cried. "And yet," she added to Terran, "Hen would have told nothing at all if it hadn't been for you." Dalbin, with the parchment in his hand, had gone to the side of Gwydion. Cole, Fluda, and King Rune gathered anxiously around them. Sure that Hen Wen was unharmed and wanted only to be left in peace, Terran and Eilonwy hurried to the companions. "Help! Oh, help!" Yelling, waving his arms frantically, Gurgi raced across the turf. He dashed into their midst and pointed toward the stables. "Gurgi could do nothing," he cried. "He tried, oh yes, but there were only smackings and whackings for his poor tender head. Gone!" Gurgi shouted. "With fast and speedful gallopings, wicked queen is gone."
Hi, you want to buy something? You can check the description for my books and audiobooks. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more content.